Hi everyone, welcome to another one of our LinkedIn Live events. Today's topic is going to be overcoming decision anxiety. So, before we start, I'm just going to quickly check if my audio and video is working fine. And if you are someone who is new to these live events, how we conduct this is that I will explain to you a particular topic in depth, today's topic being decision anxiety. And you can ask me as many questions as you want by simply commenting down wherever you are seeing this live event, right? Or if you are maybe watching this as a recording later on, because I also upload all of my live events as a recording on YouTube and it's available for free for everyone. If you're watching it there, you can just comment down your questions in the YouTube comment section, or while this live event is going on, if you're watching it live, you can also DM me the questions, as a lot of people like to do, and I will answer it. Also, one more thing I wanted to tell you guys. I'm doing a 4-day boot camp on healing your inner child next month in the middle of February. If you would like to register yourself for it, you can simply DM me HIC Bootcamp, or you can simply go to the featured section of my profile, and the registration link is there, and you can register yourself, and I will be contacting you to add you to our WhatsApp group. The 4-day bootcamp that I'm doing on healing your inner child is going to be a guided experience where I will be guiding you through how to actually understand what inner child healing is, how to heal your inner child, what are the aspects that you need to take care of. And basically, it is going to be an introductory class, right? So, even if you have never really done any kind of inner child healing or trauma healing modality, you're very welcome to join in. This boot camp is perfect for you if you're someone who's actually looking to bring about permanent resolution and you are someone who wants to go deeper in your inner work. So the boot camp is going to be perfect for you. And if you're also interested in knowing more about trauma work and what childhood trauma you might be holding on to and how you can actually heal it, I've also done a 4-day boot camp last year, which is now available as a recorded course for free. It's called Healing Your Childhood Trauma. It is also a 4-day boot camp. You can find the link to this as well in the featured section of my profile. So just go there and you will find everything there. And if you would like to work with me one on one and you would like to schedule a session with me, you can just DM me coaching. All right. So let's see if we are live. Okay. I think I can see that I am live. Okay. I am. So let's go ahead. Let's first start with understanding what exactly is decision anxiety. Right now, I am a trauma informed coach. So, I like the major work that I plan to do with my clients is actually I help them instill this unapologetic self confidence in them. Right. And other branches of it is, becoming assertive, becoming a risk taker, becoming someone who's confident about everything in their life. Right. And a big part of it is also becoming a confident decision maker. Right. So decision anxiety is basically when you have to make a decision in life, be big or small, and you are unable to make it. Right. You go into this overthinking loop where you feel that I don't know how to make a decision. Right. And since all of you are different individuals, whoever is watching this live event, your pattern of decision anxiety could be different. For example, you are someone who simply avoids taking decisions. Right. Whenever there's a decision has to be made, you will just keep putting off to the last moment, so that either someone comes and sits on your head that please make the decision, or the particular thing goes away, or you're just waiting that someone else can do it for me. You avoid taking decisions, or you avoid getting into situations when you have to make the decision. Right. Or you are someone who goes into this overthinking loop wherein whenever a decision has to be made, you become extremely anxious. Right. You think, you are up at night, you overthink, you feel like, oh my god, this has to be done, how do I do it, and I don't know how to do it. What is the right thing, what is the wrong thing, what if I get it wrong? So that's an overthinking loop. And the third kind is whenever you have to make a decision, you want to get out of the process so fast that you end up making the decision really quick, and most of the times it ends up being wrong, because you don't put any thought into decision making. Right. You are so terrified of that, you are so terrified of making a decision that you just want to put it away. Or maybe you are someone who is a combination of all three. Maybe you're someone who procrastinates decision making also. Maybe you are someone who overthinks also, and maybe you are someone who ends up making hasty decisions that ends up being wrong and ends up being backfiring on you. Right. So decision making anxiety is exactly that. It is not being able to make a decision with a sound mind. Right. In a way where it is a normal thing for you. Right. For example, let's say you have to buy something for your wedding, right? And you want to go shopping for that. And the moment you think about, oh my God, I'm going to have to do wedding shopping, the first thing is, I don't know how to do it. I don't know what are the right choices, right? So something as simple as doing something for yourself can be very difficult, as well as, big life choices like, should I have kids or not? What should be my financial goals? Or should I marry this person or not? Or what is the next career move for me? So big or small, right, wherever you are facing anxiety, it means that you have some form of decision anxiety. Okay, it could be in every area of your life, it could be a very specific area of your life. It doesn't really matter. If you are unable to take decisions smoothly, which means that you're not terrified of it, it means that you have decision anxiety, right? So this live event is relevant for you if you fall into any of the buckets. Now today we are going to see, how does it manifest, why does it exist, and what is the resolution points for it. If you've watched my previous live events, you know that I like to take a topic and go into depths of it, right? I'm not going to be giving you cookie cutter solutions because it doesn't exist, right? I'm not going to give you some hacks because, again, something like that doesn't really do anything. You have to understand that if you have a problem and if you have had it for many, like many years or even many months, it cannot be solved because I'm giving you an advice. There is a deeper reason you have that problem. So when you're working with me or you're in my energy, I want you to come from a place that if I'm going to solve my problem, I'm going to solve it completely. It is not going to be a cookie cutter solution. It is not going to be just a band-aid that I'm just going to do something that makes me feel good for a few days and then I'm back to square one, right? So we are not here for that. Now, uh, a few things that you can actually see that I could be facing decision anxiety or not. So I'm sorry, I have a really bad cold. So, how does decision anxiety actually show up, right? So, the very first thing that we see is procrastination, right? Decision anxiety often shows up as procrastination, wherein you avoid taking a decision, you avoid doing something which involves you making the final call till the end moment, right? For example, let's say that your boss has asked you to, let's say, pick a pick a project. Okay, let's say they are allowing you to pick a project for yourself, and he has asked you that, why don't you let me know by the end of next week that what project and what technology would you be interested in working with. And you wait till the next week, right, till like 1 hour before you're supposed to give an answer to your boss, to actually think about this. And in that hour you are frantic, you are in a really bad headspace. You are criticizing yourself that why the hell did I waste so much time. You feel that, oh my god, I don't know what to do in such a short span of time. And when you meet your boss, either you end up saying something that is just on top of your mind, which is not something thought through, or you end up saying to your boss that I haven't really made any decision, which again gives an impression that you are someone who's not really serious about your career. So often people who have decision making anxiety procrastinate a lot because they are very terrified, right? They're very terrified of making the decision. Now, why are these people terrified? It is because when we go deeper into decision making anxiety, we see a deep fear of being wrong, fear of what will happen if the decision I'm making is simply wrong. What will happen to me? What will I do? Right? So there's this deep sense of fear that either I don't know what to do, or even if I take a call and it goes wrong, I will not know what to do. Right? So there is a sense of feeling of being lost, that I don't know what's right. So because you're so terrified and you don't have a solution to this, right? You don't have a solution of what is the decision I make, right? Do I bring a crystal ball that tells me in the future, oh, this is a decision you're supposed to make, right? Nobody has that. What you really need is confidence, self confidence, and self belief that no matter what is the decision I take, I'm gonna be fine and I'm gonna handle it. But that is what you lack, right? So because you don't have a solution to this problem, you don't have self confidence or self belief, you end up procrastinating, and in the end, either the decision is made for you, like your boss ends up telling that, you know what, you were too late, so this is where you need to go, or you end up just losing the opportunity. Maybe your boss says that, oh, I don't think you're serious enough, so let me just give this choice to someone else, and you continue with whatever you're doing, right? So procrastination is a very big sign that you are suffering from decision anxiety. Second is seeking validation. Another way decision anxiety shows up is whenever a decision is supposed to be made, you end up seeking validation from 100 people. Could be your parents, could be your friends, could be your colleagues, or maybe you are someone who does it from all the ways. You are taking advice from your friends also, your family members also, your neighbors also, this, that, everyone. And what ends up happening is, uh, and again, it's very logical, right? When you go to 10 people, you're going to hear 10 things. And when you hear 10 things, how the hell are you going to know what is right for me, right? So when you seek so much validation, and again, I'm going to tell you something here. A lot of people have decision anxiety. They think they're being smart and logical by taking everyone's opinion, right? They think, oh my god, I'm so humble, I'm taking everyone's opinion, right? They defend it like that. But no, you're just seeking validation because you don't believe in yourself. You don't believe in yourself, you don't believe in your ability to take the right call. You don't believe in the your ability to handle your life and yourself, right? That is why you're seeking validation. So you end up seeking validation. Again, what happens? You end up being confused, right? You end up being confused because again, you have heard 10 things from 10 people and you don't know what's the right thing to pick. So you're back to square one. So that's another way decision anxiety shows up. Now, the third thing is analysis paralysis. Analysis paralysis is when someone who has decision anxiety ends up making a pros and cons list, right? Or ends up overthinking the decision so much that they feel paralyzed, right? For example, let's say I'm trying to make a decision that what is a phone I want to buy. Now, I don't have a decision anxiety problem, right? I am very clear with what I want, right? I want good battery life. I want a good processor. I want a phone that has a good camera because a lot of my work involves recording, and a couple of other things. That's all my requirement is. I don't care about the price that much. I don't care about the model or the brand. None of that, right? So I will end up buying it, right? And tomorrow, even if I find out that there are other options, I will not have any regrets about it because this gets my work done. That is how I will make the decision because I don't have any decision anxiety, right? And any other confident individual would. But someone who has decision anxiety, right, may need phone next week, but they will end up spending 2 to 3 months thinking, oh my God, what is the best choice? What is the best choice that I need to make? And the truth is that the best choice does not exist, right? Because best is an incredibly subjective thing. What you really need to know is what is it that you want, right? And having the faith and confidence that whatever it is that I'm choosing, I will make the best of it. So because you don't have that, you end up analyzing and over analyzing things again and again and again, and you end up wasting your time. Because wasting of time is again something that is a very core problem for people who have decision making anxiety. They end up wasting their precious time over things like this, right? Anything is just too big of a deal for them. The smallest of decision ends up being, where they're spending hours and hours, days and days, weeks and weeks, right? Because they think there is some sort of a perfect or the best decision that exists. And the last thing is losing out on opportunities because you have spent a lot of time just overthinking things. You have wasted a lot of time just thinking that I will make the best decision, and you have wasted your time thinking that the decision that I want to make, I hope that someone else makes it for me, right? And this results in loss of opportunities for these people a lot, right? Because you have to understand that in life you have to first decide what is it that you want, and then it comes into your life. When you can't decide what I want in my life, then what is going to happen is that either nothing will happen in your life, which means that you are stagnant, right? There is no growth, or undesirable things are coming into your life because you are unable to have the confidence to say that this is what I want and this is exactly what I will get, right? That clarity isn't there. And that clarity isn't there. Why? Because you're too afraid of being wrong. You are too afraid that I don't know how to make the best choice, right? And in reality, the best choice doesn't exist. If you ever speak to people who you think make good decisions, right? You can speak to anyone. You will find that they will always tell you that I didn't know if this would be the best decision. I just knew that this is what I wanted. And that is how decisions are made. You decide that this is what I want and you take the decision, and then you make it right later on. There's nothing called the right decision. And this can only be done when you have a deep sense of belief and you have a deep sense of confidence inside of you, right? And this is why the next topic we're going to talk about is why does decision anxiety exist in some people, whereas some for other people it's very easy to take decisions, right? They believe in themselves. Okay, before we move forward, I'm just going to quickly see if there are any questions so far. Okay. So far, we don't have any questions, but in case they do come, I will answer them as they go. All right. Now, why does decision anxiety exist for some people, whereas for some people it doesn't exist? Now, the first thing I want you to understand is how does the ability to make decisions actually start to form? So, it starts to form in your childhood from when you are as young as around 3 to 4 years old. So, when you become like 3 or 4, your sense of independence starts to develop. Okay, your sense of independence starts to develop. You feel that I have some sense of control over my environment, which is I can decide what I want, what I don't want. So that is why when kids become around 3 or 4, they start to say that you know what, I want to eat this food, I don't want to eat this food, I want to wear this dress, I want to study this, or I want this, I want that. So they start becoming expressive. They start to voice out what exactly that they want. In that is how young you are when your decision making process actually starts to form. Now if you are someone who couldn't experience that kind of independence in your life, because let's say you grew up in a very troubled home, or you had incredibly dominating parents, or you had parents who never really listened to you, you don't really learn how to trust yourself, right? So decision making ability starts to get hampered from there. And then over a period of time, the way you have lived your life is going to decide how deeply do you actually trust yourself, and how deeply do you not trust yourself. So we're going to discuss a few things here about that. Now, the very first thing I want to talk about is growing up in a household which was emotionally abusive, right? So, if you have grown up in a household which was emotionally abusive, which means that either one or both of your parents were emotionally abusive towards you, right? Which means that they disrespected you, they made you feel small, they made you feel emotionally unsafe. Maybe let's say your one of your parents would make the other parent feel very, very emotionally unsafe, or you grew up in a house where like any kind of discussion would just turn into an argument, right? You never felt safe enough to actually say what you wanted to say, right? You always felt that if I said something, it's just going to result into a conflict, right? It's going to result into another fight, just another argument, and I don't want it. So you learned to keep quiet. You learned to keep the peace in the house by just being quiet, and you just made the decision subconsciously that let me just agree to whatever is going on around me, so that the peace can be there, right? So when you grow up in a very conflicted household, in an abusive household, I'm talking about emotional abuse, but if there has been financial abuse, physical abuse, or even sexual abuse, this can happen, right? Your sense of trust starts to go away, right? Because see, when someone is a decisive person, it simply means that some this is a person who trusts himself or herself, right? And the way you trust yourself starts to form when you start to trust your body, right? Like when you say that, you know what, I can take care of myself, what you're really saying is that I trust my body, that even if something does not go right, I will be able to handle myself. And this starts to form very early on. So when you grow up in an abusive household, again, any kind of emotional, physical, sexual, financial, or even a combination of any of this, then your body starts to disassociate from your mind, right? Because you start to feel very unsafe. You feel that I have to be on guard, right? I can't be myself at my house because I don't know how mom will react, I don't know how dad will react. So you learn to be quiet, right? Or you learn to say yes to whatever your mom and dad is saying, because that is easier than saying what you want and then creating, then it resulting into a conflict, right? Or whenever you try to express yourself, your mom and dad would scold you, or they would tell you, why are you opposing us. They would emotionally blackmail you, or they would beat you up, right? So when there were consequences of you simply being decisive or being independent, what starts to happen is that your body forms this formula in your head that if I do anything for myself, if I really want anything in my life, then it's not going to result into anything good. The consequences would be horrible, right? So your body becomes very scared. That is where trauma starts to form, right? Your body becomes very scared in taking any kind of decision. You don't feel safe from inside, right? Now the second one is having dominating and controlling parents. I think this is something a lot of Asian kids can relate to, no matter wherever you are watching it from, because again, a lot of Asian culture, not just Indian, like Asian culture in general, values social norms and living according to the family, living according to society more than what an individual wants, right? So a lot of Asian kids learn to suppress themselves very early on. So if you had very controlling parents, right, very dominating parents, wherein they wanted to control like every aspect of your life, or they always made sure to tell you that no, you are not right, we are right, or that you are too small to make a decision, or that you don't know enough about the world, or we know what is good for you, you don't know anything, right? When they used words like this, again, it can have a very deep impact on a child. So this child ends up becoming an adult who does not believe in himself or herself. This adult believes that I actually don't know what's right or wrong, right? I just don't know. And that is why these individuals often go blank whenever you talk to them, because again, I have worked with many clients who were indecisive, and when I would simply ask them a simple question like, what do you want, they would often say, I don't know. Or when I would ask them that, what would you like to do here, they would often say that I just don't know, right? So this is not an adult speaking, this is a child who's too afraid to voice out what he or she wants, because he or she does not believe that whatever they want is actually right or appropriate, because they have been conditioned to believe that, right? And this is also where childhood trauma starts to actually form, when you start to believe that I don't know, when in reality that's not the truth, right? How do you know what ice cream flavor do you like? You ask your body, right? That this feels good. And when you have a lot of childhood trauma, you have a disconnection with your body, which means that your mind and body is not connected enough for your mind to give you the signal that this is what you like. Because your first instinct is to reject it. You've suppressed that part of you, right? All of us are independent, right? All of us know what we want. But when the trauma is too big, when the trauma is, just standing too tall, that it blocks our authenticity, it blocks our confidence, it blocks our decision making ability. And that is why any kind of hacks and tips and tricks don't work. Only trauma resolution does, right? That is why when I'm working with my clients, we always work on healing the childhood trauma, so they can release it from their body and they can become one with their authentic self. They can become one within mind and body. So when you grow up with dominating and controlling parents, you start to lack your independence, right? You convince yourself that I don't actually know what I want in life. So this, what happens is that as a result of this, you also start to become very gullible, which means that as you grow up, in school, or you go to high school, you go into college, you're always looking at other people around you who seem confident, and you always want to copy them, right? This is something that also happens, where you feel like, oh, this person seems confident, so he or she knows what they're doing, he knows what he's doing, so I'm going to copy him, right? Again, this can result into very bad situations, and that this happens to so many people. They copy someone who's appearing confident without checking whether this is something that aligns with them or not, and they end up then going down that path and realizing I didn't want this in the first place. So many people, I know so many of my clients who pursued degrees, who pursued careers simply because they saw a relative who appeared confident, a friend who appeared confident, a colleague who appeared confident do it, because they lack that confidence, right? So when that happens, you end up becoming very gullible. Like anybody can come and tell you something with confidence and you will accept it, because you deep down do not actually believe in yourself, right? So lack of independence develops, wherein you're always looking for someone to lean on, looking for someone or something to guide you, just the way it happened in childhood, wherein mom and dad made you depend on them for everything, right? When mom and dad told you that no, you don't know enough to make the right decision, like you listen to us, right? So you convince yourself that no, I don't actually know enough. Now, the next thing is having like lacking support and lacking encouragement in your household growing up. So again, when you grow up in a house where either both of your parents or one of the parent is extremely pessimistic, right? They're very pessimistic. They're very negative. Like whenever you want to do something, the first thing they tell you is, "Oh no, no, don't do it. It's too dangerous. It's too this. It's too that." The first thing they put in your head is something negative about it, right? So what happens to such kids is they grow up to become extremely negative themselves, and they are just too afraid to make any decision in their life, and as a result they become indecisive, because whenever they want to make a decision, the first thing they think about is, how can this go wrong? Because that is the voice that's living in their head. It's either the mom's voice or the dad's voice or the fearful voice of some uncle or aunt in their head that keeps telling them, what if this could go wrong? And that's how these kids start to think. So when you have had that kind of environment growing up, very negative, you lacked support, like whenever you wanted to do something, nobody really supported you, or nobody was really there for you, You grow up to do just that, right? Just the way your, like, a younger version of you could not get support, you also abandon your inner child. So this can also take shape in the form of you becoming very self-critical, wherein whenever you make a decision, and even if something was here and there, you criticize yourself a lot. You went like the conclusion becomes that why did you make a decision, you don't know anything, right? So again, this like loop of, I'm not decisive and I criticize myself, like, becomes very entangled. And this is why trauma informed coaching is so imperative for you if you're indecisive. Because when you lacked that support growing up, when you lacked all of that, that trauma developed, right? So what you really now need to do is you need to let go of the trauma through trauma healing and trauma resolution, so that you can actually live your life, right? Instead of living through your fears, you live through love, you live through your desires. And this can also result into lack in self-belief and people pleasing as well. So again, when you don't know what you actually want in life because you're too afraid to know what you want, because you believe that it's going to be wrong either way, you start to lack self-belief, right? You just don't believe in yourself. You feel that someone else can tell you what to do, but you will never know, even though you are smart enough, even though you may be more credible, right? For example, let's say that you are an engineer, okay, I'm a coach, right? And there is something that is, your field related. For example, let's say you want to make a particular change in your company when it comes to your field of work. Now I know nothing about engineering, I know nothing about tech, right? I only know about my field. And you believe me in what the career advice I will give you over yourself, even though you are in the field, right? And I'm not. And you may end up believing me because I'm simply confident, right? So the point I'm trying to make is, even though you're credible, even though you know a lot, and honestly, this I have never seen an indecisive person who does not know enough. I have always met indecisive people who know a lot, but they just don't trust themselves. So this trust element is what is missing. It is not the information you need, it is the deep belief and trust in your body that, you know what, I will figure it out, whatever it is. So when you don't have that, you start to lack self-belief, right? And you may also end up becoming a people pleaser, because again, you just don't know who I am, right? You want to please other people. You would rather go along with whatever everyone is saying, because you think that anyway I don't know what I want, so let me just go with whatever other people are saying. So here there's a lack of identity as well. Now, let's talk about how can you actually become decisive. And again, I'm going to take two perspectives here. One is the trauma perspective, which is how can you actually heal from there, because when it comes to indecisiveness, it is not a thought problem, okay? It is a lack of trust in yourself that has come from childhood trauma. And then the second thing is I'm going to discuss some practical aspects of it. So before we do, I'm just going to see if we have any questions so far. Okay, so someone has said that even though I know more than my colleagues, I always end up letting them take the lead because I feel that I will make a mistake. That's a very valid problem that a lot of people face, specifically when you have a corporate career. Or honestly, it doesn't really matter what kind of professional you are, or even if you're a business owner. When you don't trust yourself, you don't trust your skills as well. So you end up delaying your own reward. So again, the solution is not to blame your colleagues, or the solution is not to blame anyone, but to actually learn how to take charge of your life by working on yourself, right? Now, let's talk about the trauma perspective. Now, the very first thing I like to do with my clients when I'm working with indecisiveness with them is healing their inner child. Because when it comes to an indecisive adult, it is nothing but a deeply afraid child. A deeply afraid child who made the decision that I will not make a decision because I think if I make a decision, I might be wrong. And if I'm wrong, People will not like me, people will not love me, people will shame me, people will insult me, or people will look down on me, right? So the very first imperative thing you need to do is healing your inner child. And this is deep work that's going to require proper guidance. So the first thing you need to do is that. The second thing is you also need to heal your relationship with the parent whose voice is in your head or whose fears are in your head, right? This could be your mother, this could be your father, it could also be someone else in your family. And this is where the intergenerational trauma work also comes into the perspective, where I help my clients basically come out of their fears, come out of the voice that is in their head through trauma resolution, right? Where I help them separate them from the identity that they have merged with the person or with the parent. And I help them truly become one with who they are. Because often the fear that we think we have is not really ours, it is an absorbed fear. Could be from mom, could be from dad, could be from an aunt or an uncle, could be from someone else, right? So the second part is that. The third part is developing a deep sense of love for your authentic self. I can't tell you just how many times I've found that most people are not really living a life that they want to live. They are living a life that they think they should because someone told them, and they live their entire life just like this, right? They think that they should be doing this. That is how they think. And when you do that, you don't really know who you are. So how will you make decisions, right? So this is where, after trauma work, instilling a deep sense of love for yourself comes to the picture. Love for your authentic self, not the self that you had to be for your mom and dad, not the self you had to be for your friends, not the self you had to be for your in-laws, for your partner, but the self that you actually are. The 5-year-old version of you, the 8-year-old version of you. How were you really, right? A lot of times people say that they have become drastically different than who they used to be because they had to, right? They had to survive the situation they grew up in. So when you develop a deep sense of self-love, and again, you know what, it's a journey. It is not something that is going to happen through magic. And that is why when people work with me, I always tell them that I don't work for just 1 or 2 sessions, because it's not going to do anything, right? We're not doing some sort of like puja or magic here. Okay, you're doing deep real inner work, right? So you're going to have to give yourself some time, and it is a process. So you have to be willing to commit to it, right? You need to have at least that level of mindset where you think in terms of in years, right? Not in just days and weeks, that you need to commit to your growth. So this is a longer process, developing deep love for your authentic self, because first you need to find your authentic self. But it is a process that is absolutely worth it, because when you find who you really are and not who you should be, everything becomes easy. Every decision in life becomes easy. There is no need to seek any validation from anyone, because you know who you are, right? We only seek validation when we are a version of us who does not know who we are, right? Now, coming from the actionable perspective, I'm gonna discuss like 4 things that you can do right away. This is actionable, and again, this will only work if you have healed the trauma that is causing the indecisiveness. It's not gonna work if you don't heal the trauma. I'm just gonna tell you right away, because hacks, tips, tricks, techniques, and all that nonsense does not work for a long time. It may help you in 1 or 2 things, it will not resolve the problem. Okay? Okay. So, the very first thing, or a question I often like to ask my clients is, what is it that you want, which is just what you want and it might not be right? Often indecisive people don't think in terms of what they want, they think in terms of what could be right, what could be socially acceptable. Stop thinking like that. There is nothing called right or wrong. Okay, right or wrong is incredibly subjective. Okay, right now I'm wearing a top that is lilac in color. I like it, maybe you hate it. So who is right, you or me? We don't know. We can argue about it. Some people believe that you should get married early, some people believe that you should get married late. Who is right? Some people believe that you should not have kids unless your finances are sorted. Some people believe that finances should not be a constraint in having your kids. Who is right, who is wrong? Right or wrong is an incredibly subjective thing. We human beings have the ability to think that the people who are confident are right. That is the magic of being confident. So the point is, you need to stop asking what is the right decision. You need to start asking what is it that I want, and you choose that, and you make the decision right later on. Because you can never make the right decision. You can just take the decision and then you can make it right as you go. Now the second thing is, and again a very important one, only and only seek advice from people who are credible and who have good intentions for you. And I want you to listen to this very carefully. A lot of you end up taking career advices from your parents, from your friends. And yes, they may have good intentions for you, okay? But they're not credible. What do I mean by credibility? Credibility means someone who is in your field of work and who is ahead of you, who has gone through the same journey as you, right? So your parents love you, but they're not qualified to give you career advice, okay? Similarly, for example, let's say you want to get married to someone you love, right? And you are trying to seek approval from your parents, and your parents have had an arranged marriage and not a good one. Your parents have a very like toxic marriage or just a very subpar marriage, and you are taking advice from them. Does it make any sense? Do you think your parents have had a love marriage? No. Do your parents have a good marriage? The answer is also no. So why the hell would you be seeking advice from them? So always seek advice from people who are credible. That's the first filter. The second is the person should also have good intentions for you. For example, let's say that you have a senior, okay, who is definitely credible, but you are not sure about the intentions of this person. So this person may end up guiding you in a wrong way, right? So only take advice from people who have good intentions for you and who are credible. Okay? Both these filters should be met. Now, the next thing is always make a pros and con list by yourself, which means that whenever you're making a decision, simply sit down and write down what is it that I want. First thing is always write down what is it that you want and make a list of what are the good things about it, what are the good things that can happen, what are the bad things that can happen. And the only question that you need to answer next is, if the bad things happen, am I okay with it? Am I willing to be okay with it? Actually, that is the question. Am I willing to be okay with it? Is the upside higher than the downside? Because every decision has a downside, to be very honest. There is no decision in the world that does not have a downside. Am I okay with the downside? Is the upside higher than the downside? That's the question you need to answer. And the last thing that I want you to keep in mind when you're making a decision is think in terms of years, not months or weeks, but in years, specifically when it comes to long term decisions like relationships, your career, your inner work. For example, I'll tell you, I was working with someone like 2 3 months back, and this person had inquired with me, for working with me in 2022 when I started my business in 2023, and then they finally decided to work with me in 2024, and the situation worsened over a period of time, right? So they kept delaying their inner work for whatever reason. So the point is that when you delay something, it is because you want to avoid the temporary discomfort of making the decision or whatever it is that you have to do to make the decision, right? Think in terms of years. Think in terms of if I don't resolve this problem now, what will be the consequences of it? What will be the long term consequences of it? That is what you need to think about. And when you do that, the decisions will become very, very easy. If not easy, they will become simple, right? Okay, that is it from my side for today. I am just going to quickly see if we have any other questions. By the way, my DMs are always open. If you ever want me to do a live event on a particular topic that you would like, you can always DM me. If you would like to work with me to resolve your own anxiety issues, and if you want to become, the most confident version of yourself, be it personally or professionally, I take a trauma informed approach to my work. You can just DM me coaching and you can book a one-on-one session with me. Okay, I don't think we have had any questions, but let me just see. Okay, I don't think we have any questions so far. But in case if you guys have any, you can always DM me and I will answer it in the DMs itself. Or if you'd like to work with me again, you can just have a conversation with me by booking a call. And I will see you in a few days for with another live event. Thank you so much for showing up, everyone. Bye bye.